Welcome back to Rockstar 101. His name is still Brandon. He's the DJ.
His name is Shim. He's the Rockstar. Class is in session. Today's lesson, if you will, we're talking about Pantera's Cowboys from Hell. Now, you might think, oh yeah, that's their first album. No. This was their fifth.
Fucking fifth.
But we're going to get into all of this stuff. We're doing a huge deep dive into Pantera, and I have audio that I recorded, I believe it was 15 years ago. I think it was 2006 when I was in Florida. Zakk Wylde came through, and if you have never met Zakk Wylde, you are missing out on meeting one of the coolest people on the damn planet.
Okay, I've
got Zakk Wylde stories.
You got
too,
Zakk
man.
Wylde stories. I've only got one Zakk Wylde story, and my Zakk Wylde story was at a festival that they were co-headlining with Mudvayne, and we played. And I'd never met him, and I know and respect Zakk Wylde as an individual. Didn't know any of his music back then, right? And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I've heard about this guy, but I don't really know him. And then there's it's just a biker gang. The whole band is a fucking biker gang.
Yeah, it's Black Label Society.
Yeah, Black Label Society.
They have factions and stuff everywhere. It's awesome.
And so this is the only story that I had. I was like, I went to the bathroom, and there was a little building that had the guys and girls toilets. It was its own self-contained little building. And I went to go in, and I had to piss, and I had to go. I was not busting, but I had to fucking pee. And there was a guy that was in Black Label Society jacket standing outside the door. And I went to go in, and he just did this, and he was like, Zack's in there. And I went, cool. And then I went to go in again, because I'm like, I didn't process that he's like, you can't go in until he comes out. And I'm like, it's a whole fucking building. It's a building of bathrooms. It's not a cubicle. It's like... And I'm like, I went to go in again, and he just held his hand up and did the pause with the fucking look, like that look. I'm gonna tear your heart out if you try it again. Like, Zack's in there, and I was like, oh, so I guess I'm just waiting. Like, I was about to do the whole thing. I was about to do the thing of like, oh no, I'm in the band. Like, I'm actually right before you guys, and I'm on in like 15 minutes. And the look was like, I'm not gonna fuck with it. I'll just wait a minute. It's cool. It's not a big deal.
See, that's weird to me because anytime, and I've met Zakk a few times through the years, and he's always been just one of the nicest and coolest people on the planet. I remember there was from this clip that we recorded, which if I'm remembering correctly, it was from 2006 when I was down in Florida, and when he was done performing, he came in, kind of did an acoustic set. Or I don't even think it was acoustic. Whatever, he just performed for us. So. He was doing autographs afterwards, and this one guy that I knew, he went up to go get an autograph, and he went to get an extra one. And Zakk was like, "Who do you want me to make it out to?" Like, because he personalizes every autograph. He's not just going to sign his name.
Right.
And my buddy was like, "Oh, just you don't need to make it out to anybody," thinking like he could take that. He's not going to go sell it or anything. You go probably give it to a friend or something.
Yeah.
But he froze, and he was like, "Make it out to Goat." Which is my on-air name, my nickname.
Yeah.
And so then Zakk goes, he goes, fucking Goat, this kid. He goes, let me tell you a story about Goat. And we'd only met each other a few times at this point, and I think he completely made this up. He just goes on this whole story about me for almost 5 minutes while he's signing this autograph, and it was fucking hilarious. And what I'm pissed about is I'd already started to tear down the microphone.
Oh, bummer.
I didn't get that on tape, but we did get a story from Zakk Wylde, and if I'm remembering correctly, the way that I had it labeled, his guitar tech's name was Moby.
Right.
So Zakk was performing, and then he was like, "Hey, do you want to tell the Goat story?" And Moby was like, "Yeah." So of course, we're in this conference room, and everybody turns and looks at me because that was my name, and I'm like, "No." And Zack's like, "No." He goes, "Not that Goat. This is a different Goat." So the story entails Dimebag Darrell, Jerry Cantrell, and a goat. And I'm going to play that audio at the end of this podcast. We're going to be putting that in there so you guys get to hear that. I've been sitting on this thing for 15 years, and I think only a few people, other than the people who were in that room at that time, I think only a few people have actually heard this audio. Awesome. So I'm pretty excited that we get to do this. So we got that coming up. Also, go check out the playlist.
Yes.
Go to Spotify, search The Real Brandalorian. And this is kind of what started this kind of history of rock that we're doing right now, where we're sticking to a year and we're talking about the albums from that year. And if you search The Real Brandalorian, or if you search Rockstar 101 and then Best of 1990, this playlist will pop up. You got Pantera in there. Last week we talked about Alice in Chains. We're going to get to AC/DC's Razor's Edge. Mother Love Bone's going to get covered here in the month of April as well. So be sure to go check out those playlists. And then before we get into the Pantera stuff, Shim got some really good news the past few days.
Oh, okay. So
he doesn't have to stress about getting to the United States this year because Rage Against the Machine pushed their show.
So for anyone who's watching this after the fact, like if you caught up on Rockstar 101 a few months after this, yes. So for 60-second this, Brandon and I had the biggest bromance last year about, hey, we got tickets.
No, because last year was supposed to be the first show. This would have been
it would have been. We got
like the first year of the podcast. This would have been 2019.
No, but we got the tickets. We got the tickets at the beginning of 2020.
Oh yeah, it was February of 2020.
Yeah, and so they had a show. Rage Against the Machine had a show booked. My greatest regret one of my 3 life regrets is that I didn't go to see Rage Against the Machine when they did their first reunion run in the 2010s.
And one of my biggest regrets was I didn't get to see them when they were touring with the Wu-Tang Clan because the tour got canceled right before they got to Portland. Or I should say Wu-Tang backed out of the show, and I never got tickets to it.
So we cohorted, collaborated, conspired to fucking get these tickets no matter what the cost. And they were expensive. They were excessive, but we got good seats to the El Paso show.
Las Cruces.
To the Las Cruces show because El Paso sold out. And Brandon was sweating and I woke up to text messages, like 4 hours worth of text messages like, dude, it's not loading. Fuck, they keep selling out.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm not going to make it.
Oh my God.
Dude, I'm not going to make it.
I don't think we're going to get tickets. Because I had 2 laptops going at one time. Yeah. I had one that was for the El Paso show and one for the Las Cruces show.
It was intense.
And I'm texting Shim, and he's asleep.
I'm asleep.
Because the tickets went on sale at 10 a.m., which is like 3 a.m. Shim's time.
Yeah.
Over in Australia. And I'm like, dude, I don't know if I'm going to get in. Because it shows this little meter, this little cue, and there's a little dude on the end that shows him like walking. Yeah. And he wasn't moving. Like he wasn't going anywhere. And I'm like, oh my God. Like we're not going to get it. I think it took 2 hours for me to get the ticket.
So I just woke up to the final result, which was a whole bunch of fuck. And then at the end at like 6 a.m., it's like, okay, I got the tickets. They were like stupid.
They were really expensive.
Stupid money, but here they are. We got them. You happy? And I'm like, cool, man. I woke up. I had my coffee. I'm like, cool, man. Thanks for covering that for us. Awesome. Like, I didn't fucking sweat nothing. But then they postponed the show. And I went, okay, cool. That's what happens. They postponed it to June of this year. June of 2021. But the pandemic's still going on, and I can't fly to the States. So bottom line is there was really not much chance of me getting there just to go see Rage Against the Machine. It just probably wasn't going to happen. Thank God. As of a couple days ago, they postponed the show another year. But the thing that's really interesting about this is that this is a red flag for the entire touring industry because a lot of people in the last month since the vaccine started rolling out have been saying, oh, cool, summer's on. We're going to open everything up and all the tours and all the festivals, everything's going to happen. And behind closed doors, none of you guys would know this, but when I talk to managers and agents and stuff in the business, they're like, yeah, they're opening up a few things and they're publicizing what they're opening up, but everyone's really skeptical. Like everyone's still got their insurance policies. There's like, we're not really sure what the fuck's going to happen. Like all it takes is one big surge and another lockdown or another stateside lockdown or whatever. And it's going to be a problem. And so everyone's on tenterhooks. And when Rage canceled, that was, I think, a red flag to a lot of people where they were like, man, the big bands are going to just push it to the next year. All the big bands.
Yeah, like we're not quite ready yet. As much as we want to be able to in 2021, we're not ready yet.
Yeah. So like, I think that means, for me, great news. For what you do, for people, for radio, Twitch, live streaming, everyone's still staying at home for a while. Cool. And it gives me another year to prep for touring. But like, I think that we're going to see a lot more tours rescheduled. There's a few tours that are going through, but you'll notice that most of those tours are mid-level tours. They're not the big daddies.
Oh, we've already got some tours coming through El Paso. Coming up April 16th, Friday. Drowning Pool.
But they're club shows, right?
El Paso. Yeah, well, they're at a venue called Speaking Rock, which is here.
Okay.
Which I think would be. I'm not sure where they're doing it. I know they're doing it outside.
That'll probably help.
To kind of help keep the distance, and it's going to be limited capacity, and masks will be required. But it's a free show.
Well, we'll see. Anyway,
it's going to be dope.
But yeah,
so Rage is postponed. Shim was able to kind of I could tell the stress when we were talking about it. I don't think we were talking about it on the podcast. I think it was when we were done recording.
Yeah.
And I could see the stress in his eyes of like, I don't know how I'm going to get there. Like, is this going to be another time where I don't get to see Rage Against the Machine?
I was really like, I told my wife, I'm like, so the concert's on, and she went, oh, that's too bad. And I was like, well, maybe I'll have to go over and da 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 da. And she was like, yeah, we'll talk about it once you've pulled your head out, because it's just not. She was like, once they rescheduled the show, and I was like, oh, thank God they rescheduled. She was like, yeah, I was really hoping something had happened because I didn't want to have that conversation because it's just not feasible.
Didn't want to have to tell you no,
it's
you're
just
not
not
going.
feasible. It's like, it wasn't even like, I'm not going to let you. It's like, dude, you can't fly out of the country. You can try.
Yeah, it wasn't your wife saying no. It would have been like the government
it's
saying
like
no, you're not allowed to
fucking
leave.
like, it's just not an option right now, especially for a show. Maybe if it's like fucking something to do with like you got to be in court for a witness appearance or something, but like to go and see Rage, it's not going to happen. So anyway, but we're getting into Pantera. So
yeah, we're getting into Pantera, Cowboys from Hell, and something that gets confused a lot is the fact that people think that this was the band's first album, which it was not. It was actually their fifth. It was their major label debut.
Yeah.
And I believe the story goes, one of the record reps had shown up at one of their shows and made it for maybe 3 songs or something like that, and then he left. And so up on stage, Rex, the bassist, was kind of in Dimebag. They were kind of looking at each other, and they're like, "Hey, I think we blew it, man. Like he's gone." So they just proceeded to go get hammered and just put on a phenomenal show. When the show was over, the rep came back, and they were like, "Hey, like why did you leave? Like what's going on?" He goes, "Oh, I went to go make a call. I told my boss that there's no way I'm not leaving here without you guys signed." Like that's how much they blew this dude away with their performance. And if you've I never got to see Pantera live. Dude. I never even got to see Damage Plan live. But if you watch any videos from how Pantera performed live, there was a reason that it was nuts. I mean, it was a constant. It's
an assault energy and of the senses.
Oh my God, it's just nonstop. And it's funny. I was sort of prepared for this. I was watching an old VH1 Behind the Music that they did on Pantera, which obviously the main focus was the murder of Dimebag, but it got to talking about their early years and their concerts and things like that. And I can't remember who it was that it was from the band. Might have been Vinny. And he's talking about how, he's like, not a lot of people want to show up to a concert and get a black eye or a bloody nose, but oh no, I'm sorry, it was Phil. It was Phil Anselmo, where he was like, people might not want that. He goes, but I'm going to make sure that it happens. He goes, I'm going to get you fucking moving. He's like, I'm going to push forward as much as we can, which eventually led to his back problems from jumping around on stage, from jumping off of the speakers, and just the crazy way he performed led to his back problems, which then caused him to drink more, which ultimately led to his heroin addiction. And at one point he actually died. And they had to bring him back to life because he overdosed on heroin. But that's something we'll get to in the future.
Yeah, he's got stories.
Right now we're talking about Cowboys.
Oh, dude, I got to tell you about when I met him. One time when I met him.
Who, Phil?
Yeah, Phil. I met him once at LAX for all of 1 second. And I saw him. He was sitting by himself. He was reading a book. And I just walked up to him. And I was like, hey, man, I don't want to bother you. I've had this happen to me a bunch of times. I'm a singer in a band, and I've been very fortunate to have a bit of success. So I'm not gonna sit down and bug you. I just wanted to say that
I'm not gonna follow you around like I did.
Yeah. I just was like, I'm in a band. I do what you do, not nearly as well, but you've inspired me a lot, and I've listened to a bunch of your music, and I think you're great. And I just wanted to say, that you're very appreciated, and that what you do matters. And I swear to God, the only thing he said to me, I literally was like, I put my hand out and made it clear, after we shake hands, I'm going to bounce. I'm not going to bug you, but I just want to say hey and thanks. And he put his hand up and he leaned in and he said, we are brothers cosmically. And he shook my hand and I was like, yeah, man. And I left.
Damn.
And I was like, that's all he said. And I was like, that's the dopest fucking meeting. You don't have to sit down, you don't have to drag it out, just be like, we are brothers cosmically. You're a singer, we are brothers cosmically.
And he has that really
and then I was like, okay, Pantera, bye. Fucking it was the dopest fucking story. And I'm so glad I didn't sit down and ruin it. Like, it was perfect.
Yeah. You could have sat there and been like,
oh yeah,
well, cool, let's hang out, man.
Yeah. So what mic do you fucking, who cares? Like, we're brothers, cool, I'll see you on the other side, man.
So we're talking about, the album Cowboys from Hell and the playlist that we put up on Spotify. I didn't put that much on there because I wanted more feedback. I wanted I mean, I know the songs I already put them in there. You got Cowboys from Hell, you got Cemetery Gates, and then I think the other one I put in there was Psycho Holiday because we have a story about that coming up. But there's definitely songs from Cowboys from Hell that are not in the playlist that belong in the playlist. So by all means, man,
let us know.
Let me know in the comments below.
Yep.
If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple or Google or whatever, hop on over to Shim's YouTube channel, put and comment below. And while you're there, make sure you click like and everything else for us because that really, really helps us out to make sure that we can get this out there to as many people as possible. But let me know which Pantera songs, specifically from Cowboys from Hell, need to be in this playlist because right now it's only Cowboys from Hell, Cemetery Gates, and Psycho Holiday, and that's it. Because I really wanted to get feedback from the audience, from the real Pantera fans, which reminded me of another story. I used to get, I don't think there was anything serious behind them, but I would get like death threats when I worked in Eugene because I wasn't really allowed to play Pantera. We were more of an alternative station.
You would get death
we
threats
had a thing
from
called
the fans of the station?
I get emails about how if you don't play Pantera, I'm going to come down there and kill you.
Fucking Pantera people are fucking insane, dude.
Yeah. Because I did a thing that was called the 90s at noon, which is just you take requests and you get to play 90s songs.
Yeah.
And, we tried to mix it up a little bit, but I was told that, Pantera, not one of our core bands that I was very rare I got to play anything from Pantera, but it was when I was working at that station when I got the news that Dimebag had been shot.
Shit.
So I was I was the midday guy, and so I tuned in to the morning show, and they were talking about what had happened the night before in Ohio to Dimebag Darrell. So Cowboys from Hell, it's their major label debut, and before this, I don't know if you knew this, they were kind of a hair band.
Oh yeah, I've heard about this. I've seen a couple of pictures of Phil from beforehand, and like they definitely were trying to find themselves as a band. Their first album was super hair metal-y, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was more or less what they were saying by the time Cowboys from Hell came out was they realized, look, this hair in these outfits aren't playing our music, we are. So we just need to be comfortable. We just need to be up on stage because one of the reasons that they were doing that was because that was kind of the popular thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about, how far back they go, I think Pantera was formed in 1981.
Yeah. So when they were dropping albums, that was the peak of hair metal, of course. It makes sense. And the guitar playing is very hair metal at times. All those squeals and riffs and stuff like...
Yep.
Yeah. And his vocals, like when I was listening to Cemetery Gates yesterday, I was like, when he keeps going higher and fucking higher,
dude, at
and
the end of
higher
that song, when you got Dimebag hitting the note, and then you got Phil doing this, that to me showed the epitome of what those two together were. And it's a shame that there was so much headbutting and there were so many issues that were going on with this band because that right there was so perfect. There's a video online of a vocal coach. Reacting to Cemetery Gates, and the end of that song absolutely blows my mind.
I was listening to it. I hadn't listened to that song in a long fucking time, and when he hits the high note, I was like, oh shit, that's right. He was really a singer, not just a screamer. And then he hits the next one, and I'm like, oh wow, they really went for it. And then the next one, and then the next one, and I was like, what the? This is literally, by the time he gets to the fourth high note, I'm like, you're just showing off. He's just a dick measuring contest of like, can you go this high? Can you go this high? Can you go that high? I'm like, eventually Dimebag's gonna run out of fucking frets. Like,
and that was the thing, and she had even gotten confused because you know how people when they're doing like a React video, so she was stopping and starting, and she had stopped it, but then she started it again, and it was on Dime's note, and she could see.
You can't tell which one's which.
This is something of it showed how Dimebag could make the guitar sing.
Yeah.
Literally sing.
Yeah.
The way that he would hit those notes, man, there's been almost nobody else like it, and she actually confused his note with Phil singing.
Yeah.
And that's how in tune they were together. At the end of Cemetery Gates, I'm telling you, that's one of the songs that's already in the Spotify playlist. If you aren't familiar with Cemetery Gates, go listen to it. Specifically the end. It's amazing.
And I think that...
So I got another story here.
Oh, go ahead.
From Pantera. Did you know that Dimebag almost joined Megadeth?
Whoa, no, that would have been dope. Fuck.
He tried out. He got in. Dave Mustaine told him, you're in. But there was one problem. Dime said he would only do it if Vinnie Paul got to be the drummer, and Megadeth already had a drummer. Oh. And Dave Mustaine wasn't going to fire the drummer.
Right.
So ultimately it didn't happen, and then Pantera continued on.
Wow, that's fucking loyalty right there, man. That's amazing. And Megadeth was Megadeth by this point, right? They weren't starting out.
I believe so, yeah.
Wow, that's a big deal. Good on him. Fucking
So-
everyone always said Dimebag was nothing but heart. Like he was a badass that would terrify you or whatever, but he was like the story that you're gonna tell at the end that I know shows that like he's just a kid. He's just a big fucking kid playing pranks.
He was a big gigantic kid.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It was, and you had to be a drinker, apparently. Like it was, you hear all these stories. I think it was even from that one Behind the Music I was watching where it was like, look, they're probably the only band that if you didn't drink, you'd get kicked out.
Yeah.
Like they were there to party, man. Like they would show up with the booze and the alcohol, and it was party time. Anytime Pantera was showing up, man. And I got another story about that coming up too.
They're one of the bands like the Slash and them, and there's a bunch of bands like but especially when it came to the thing that I always found fucking hilarious when it came to some of these guitar players that were iconic guitar players was that normally when you're a guitar player and you have muscle memory that comes with playing guitar, and then you drink, it fucks up your muscle memory. If you get too drunk, you just suck at guitar. These guys were such alcoholics that if they didn't drink before they went on stage, they sucked. Their muscle memory was set to being drunk. So they were drunk so much that if they went on stage, like even with only a couple of beers in them, they had to fucking be lit and get on stage, and then they could shred and be amazing. But if they didn't, their hands would stop fucking working. Like if you've ever had a massive night out and then you're hungover the next day, you'll pick up, sit and be like, oh man, my body doesn't feel good. That's them playing guitar in the opposite fucking direction.
Yeah, that was one of the stories that kept popping up as I was researching for this episode. Was that the Dime could be up there sober, but his best, they were like arguably his best stuff happened when he was drunk. There's times where he probably couldn't even say his name, and he is just running circles around any guitar player possible up on stage because he was just so good at that. And that's what he did, man.
I didn't realize until I listened to the playlist again and I heard some of the if you listen to any of my stuff off, especially Dressed Up as Life, where we were more of a three-piece, there was less production going on. It was more of a raw album. I didn't realize how much that band and him specifically influenced a lot of the rhythmic guitar stuff that I do, and probably fucking all guitar players. But I always go to Tom Morello and think, oh yeah, but Pantera had more of the stuff where the snare and kick drum, it's the way that fucking the two brothers work together. The snare and kick patterns would lock in at all times, and that became a huge, like Seven Dust fucking took from that in a massive way when they would lock in on the percussiveness of what the guitars and the drums are doing, and we ripped that off every chance we got. Every time there's a drum fill, you're like, well, what can the guitars do to go in with the drum fill? And it's all Pantera. But I forgot about it because I haven't listened to it for a while. It's fucking dope.
Yeah, they're considered, Pantera is the originator of groove metal, is really what kind of people had labeled them as. Right. Now, moving on to the next song here, the third song that got added to this playlist was Psycho Holiday. And I added it after I read this story from Rex Brown, where he wrote it on a note because, and when you hear about stories from Pantera, Phil, he had issues from like the beginning. Like that dude's got his own demons to deal with.
Yeah, he's a madman.
So the way that it was written here, it says the band noticed that Anselmo had a short temper during their demo sessions. So he went to New Orleans for a weekend to refresh and see his family and friends. Brown explains, so I was sitting there and I wrote on a pad, Psycho Holiday, because he was psycho and he was going on a holiday. And then Anselmo talks about it. He says, when I came back to the house, I looked next to the telephone and written on this pad is Psycho Holiday scribbled out with all these flight times. It was Rex trying to get my ass out of fucking town. I was the psycho. It became an inside joke. And Vinnie Paul said, man, that's a great fucking song title. Yeah. And that's how Psycho Holiday was born. So if you want to check that out, go to that playlist, man.
Fucking A.
Have you ever had a producer bail on you before?
A producer bail? Oh, as in like be working on an album and then just leave?
Kind of, because that's what ultimately happened to Pantera. They were originally signed on here. Says the band really wanted to work with producer Max Norman because they were big fans of Ozzy Osbourne's Diary of a Madman. So he flew to Houston to see a gig. They were ready to go. Their recording budget was $30,000 for the producer. This is coming from Vinnie Paul, who's saying this. About 2 days before we were supposed to start recording, Max got offered $50,000 to do Lynch Mob. So he calls us up and says, guys, I need the money. I'm out. we were like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, I'm lucky, man. I never had producers pull out for that reason. I've never had producers pull out. I've had producers be like, hey, we're not going to start work. I had a lot of producers say, we're not going to begin working with you at the start of our career. Lots of producers passed, but no one signed on and then bailed. But I was going to say the only time that I met Vinnie Paul was very fortunate, and we didn't really talk. He was there. He was with, what's the fucking... Hell Yeah. He was with Hell Yeah. So he was playing with Hell Yeah, and we were doing a festival, and someone introduced us, and it was like there was a few other people around, and it was just, and this is Shim from Sick Puppies. And I wasn't planning on saying anything. I was just going to go hi and not make a big deal. And he turned around, and
you go, we are cosmic brothers.
We are cosmic brothers. This is before I met Phil. And he spread his legs. He just fucking took on the guitar. Like, this is Vinny. And he spread his legs like guitar stance, right? And then he just air guitared, and he looked at me and he went, and he started singing the riff from You're Going Down. And I was like, this is fucking weird. And he just looked, I think he was drunk, but he just was like, dude, that's a dope fucking riff, goddamn. And then he went back to his fucking conversation. And that was like really weird. he just air guitared You're Going Down and was like fucking, as soon as like, it was really cool. And that was it. And then he was done. It was fucking, the only two meetings I had with members of Pantera were very surreal, but very, very, in keeping with the fantasy of like, they're this cosmic fucking out there band that were just living on another fucking level. And like, both encounters were like, yep, that sounds about right. That sounds like your encounter with Pantera. So it was fucking cool, man.
The next one we have here is when we were talking about Cemetery Gates and hitting all those notes at the end. Apparently, Phil, he broke a chair while recording Cemetery Gates. What it says here is it wasn't on accident. He confessed, he said that that was my second time in the studio and I fucking hated it. There's one note that comes up twice in Cemetery Gates that I could not do for hours. I broke a chair. I was so goddamn frustrated. And then their producers, so the guy that they ended up getting to produce this album, he's one of the big names out there in the rock world, Terry Date.
What else has he done? I know that fucking name.
He's worked with all kinds of people. And what's interesting is that you'll see on a lot of songs, like I know Slipknot specifically, I can't remember the name of the song, but it'll say like Terry Date Mix on the end of the title, because that's the one that was released for like radio play. Because the one thing you'll notice is you hear a lot of really weird edits on radio, like where you might not need to hear an edit. One song that comes to mind is Korn's Freak on a Leash. There's that breakdown in the middle of the song that's edited to be shorter for the radio. And we get people complaining about that. They're like, dude, why don't you play the whole song? And my response is, I don't know. I wish we played the whole song. If it was up to me, we would play that entire
Well, you know why they make the edit, though. You know why they do it.
On that one?
On any song. The only reason anyone ever makes an edit for radio is because they're trying to keep the song as short as they can so it gets played more often. Because if there's a song that's 3 minutes and 50 seconds and radio has the choice of playing 3 minutes and 20 seconds, if they're running out of time, they're going to play the 3 minutes and 20 second song because they got to cut to an ad break or do whatever. It gives them a bit of breathing room. So you make it as short as you can, that's what she said, so that you can get it in there. That's what she said.
Well, the other thing, too, that I know gets edited was specifically like screams and yells. There was... I believe it was Chevelle's Well Enough Alone that starts, you hear the cymbal, it just says, and then you hear that, like right at the beginning of the song. I went to dub in that song when I was down in Florida to put it into our computer system so we could play it. Yeah. And they were like, make sure you use this cut. And I go to put it in, and it doesn't have that scream. Yeah, and I'm like, why? Like,
yeah, they did.
And that's just, that's a thing radio does.
Okay. This is A&R, so I'll give you a short example. We're going to be wrapping up in a second. This is a short example of how A&R can be good. I've come around to the point where I'm like, there are times when record labels do great things. They do a great job. They've got their own business model that they're running. And there are times when A&R guys just don't know a fucking thing. And you realize that they're coming from this place of ignorance and that they're really just talking until they land on something that someone agrees with. They're fucking pissing in the wind. And I was working, there was a song called Poison off Connect, which is a slow tempo ballad that goes to a fucking really big bridge. And at the in the bridge, there's this hair metal sounding sort of thing where I'm screaming, and I'm screaming. She's like, poison, poison, and it's like it's really angsty and fucking gritty. But the rest of the song is very chill. And the A&R guy came up and he was like, "Hey, I'm not really feeling that part of the song, and it's kind of a second half of a bridge. Why don't we just cut it and go to the next chorus?" And I'm like, "Because it's fucking dope."
That's
like,
the song.
Yeah, what do you mean? Like, why would we cut it? It's apart from the fact that it's finished, it's recorded and prepped and done and ready to go to mix. And he comes in at the pre-mixing stage and he's like, "I think I want to cut that out." I'm like, "Oh, do you now?" And I explained. I said, "Okay, let's sit down."
Thanks for the feedback, bro.
I said, "Let's sit down and talk about it." I said, "Tell me why you think it should be cut." And he turned around and said, "Well, Shim, tell me why you think it should be in there." And I said, "Oh, well, in that case, the song is about being in a destructive relationship with a woman who beats the shit out of you emotionally and mentally, and yet you can't leave the relationship because she's fucking hot and she's like really sexy and she's got like you're addicted to the poison, and you know it's the metaphor for relationships and everything. And by the time we get to the bridge, it's the moment when this character in the song is like, I have to break away, but I've got this massive conflict in my head." And so it's his internal voice screaming out, going, "Ah!" And he looked at me and went, "Is that what this song is about?"
Oh, fuck you, buddy.
And that's what I fucking said in my head. I was shocked. I was like, "Are you kidding me? You want to cut out a whole section of the song, which is dope. The whole song has built to this crescendo. You want to cut it out and you don't even know what the song's about." And at that point, when I explained it to him, he said, "Oh, is that what the song is about? In that case, you're right. It's a good section. Well, let's leave it in." And I was like, "You were willing to cut out a whole chunk of the song on a follow-up to a platinum record, and you didn't even know why." I think that there was a part of it that was just, you want to cut it out so that you can say that you fucking did something. So you can take it back to the label and say you did something. But there are times...
Hey, I earned my paycheck.
Yeah,
Keep me around.
yeah. There are times when that's
Fuck
really...
you, man.
And there are times when that's the case. And so whenever they take it to radio, there are a lot of times when it's just an A&R guy saying, "Well, I have to deliver a song to radio. There's a section in here that could be cut out. It could be a little shorter. There's a scream there." The reason he takes out the scream at the beginning is because they're worried that if someone hears a scream at the beginning of a song, they're going to switch the channel. They're going to go, "Oh, it's just someone screaming at me."
That's exactly why.
Yeah.
Because I asked him, I was like, why would we not leave the original cut in? The one thing about rock music and the rock and roll fans is we want the legit thing. We know music. We're not pop fans. 90% of pop fans don't actually know music. Like they just go like, "Oh, I like that beat," or "Oh, I like that lyric." They don't know the actual music. Rock fans are completely different in that aspect. That's why, like, being a rock DJ, you got to know your shit. And there was people I've worked with who've worked for rock stations and they were not rockers. They tried to pose themselves off as one. You can fucking tell. And the audience, they let this person know, like, "Hey, like, we know you're kind of phony here." Or actually, it's more than just one person. There's been a few people actually. Now that I think about it, who have had to deal with that. But anyway, so we're gonna move on here to get to the final story. But really quick, before we get to anything else, we'll hit up the socials. You can find me over on Instagram, on Reddit, or on Twitch. It's at The Real Brandalorian. All three have the same exact screen name. You can also find Shim. He's over on Twitch at Hollywood Rebellion. You can also find him as Shim on Facebook or Shim Moore over on Twitter as well. Excuse me, I'm talking really fast here. Also, beard looking tight. You like it, you love it, looks good, right? That's because of the beard struggle. So go to the Beard Struggle when you check out. Use promo code Brandalorian. They've got your oils, combs. It's the stuff. It's like hands down the best stuff I've ever used for my beard. So go to the Beard Struggle. Use promo code Brandalorian when you check out. There's one story about Dimebag that kept popping up as I was just watching stuff on Pantera this past week. And what he would do sometimes is he would take a breathalyzer around with him, and if you didn't blow above a certain point, you had to keep drinking. That's how they were. And it was like, "Look, you're only at a 0.05. Come on, man. Like, here's 3 shots for you. Bam, bam, bam. Like, let's get that BAC up there," which we had done before too. I remember one of my friends, he had a breathalyzer, and we would do that. And it wasn't to make somebody drink more. It was just to kind of see how fucked up you were.
Yeah.
And we weren't driving anywhere, so I mean, it wasn't really an issue.
It's a gag. So. I get it. It's fucking Pantera.
Yeah, we want to see what's going on here. But on that note, we're going to start wrapping up this episode of the podcast. But when we sign off, don't go anywhere. Like, you'll notice that the music's not playing at the end. That's because We're going to have that story from Zach Wilde and Moby, his guitar tech. Look, I've had to explain this to Shim a few times. Not Moby, the DJ guy. Not the guy that used to get into fights with Eminem. Not the guy that wrote Porcelain. Fatboy Slim is fucking heaven. No,
just
that
a guy.
was
Just
Fatboy Slim.
Pantera's guitar tech happened to be named Moby.
His name happened to be Moby, and I just mixed up Moby and Fatboy Slim too. So
I was going to say, yeah, just you know,
as well.
yeah, just.
But anyway, so Moby, it's just his name was Moby. So don't confuse it. They'll be like, oh, that's the dude that's talking about. No,
yeah, that would
he
be
was the
interesting.
guitar tech, and he's the one telling the story. So it's Zach Wilde was performing, and then Moby comes in and he tells the story. It involves Dimebag Darrell, Jerry Cantrell, and a goat. So on that note, his name is Shim. He's the rock star.
His name is Brandon. He is the DJ.
Class dismissed. Enjoy the story.
Black Label storytelling. During the Damage Plan rehearsals, we're coming back from somewhere, from a music store or something, and we get to Dime's house and get out, and Rita's on the front porch with her arms like this. And Dime just looks at me. He goes, "Uh-oh, something went terribly wrong. Look at her." So we get up to the front
his immortal
porch.
beloved Rita.
Yeah,
She's not happy.
Not happy at all.
Yeah, not life, the wife.
And,
You know what I mean?
So Dime's going, "What's up, baby?" She goes,
And you're still sexy. I don't know how you're maintaining it, brother.
and Rita's like, "One of your goddamn fans brought a goat over." "Oh, what?" "There's a goat in the backyard." Sure, we go down the backyard. There's a goat tied up to the tree, and it says "Happy Birthday, Dime" on it, or something like that. So he's like, "Oh man, that's awesome! Come on, let's go to Walgreens." I go, "What the fuck are we going to Walgreens for?" He goes, "I want to get some dye and dye his beard pink like mine."
Yeah.
Oh, it gets way better. So we go to Walgreens, get the beard dye for the fucking goat. We're chasing the goat around for 3 hours trying to dye this fucker's goatee fucking pink. We finally get it done, and we're hanging out on the front porch having a beer, and Jerry Cantrell comes up because him and Dime were good buddies. You know, Father Cantrell drives up in his brand new fucking $80,000 silver Cadillac, right? They're like, "Dime, what do you think of my ride?" Dime's like, "Yeah, it's a cool ride, dude. Cool ride." Yeah. So they went out, and everybody went out drinking that night.
They'd always try and one up each other. You know?
Yeah, they're always
Jerry,
trying to.
Jerry,
You know,
that's the whole thing with Jerry. And I love Jerry's a Black Label brother and everything like that.
Yeah.
But it's Jerry's like, "Dude, check out my new fucking ride." I go,
you think it's tough keeping up with the
I
Joneses?
really
trying
couldn't
to keep
give a
up with
fuck,
the
brother.
Cantrell.
You know? It's great. It's awesome. You know, it's just.
So everybody goes out drinking, and Cantrell, he was still drinking at the time, and he passes out in Dime's house, dead unconscious. He's gone. At 7 a.m, Dime's still going, and I'm still going with him. And he goes, "Come on, man, we're going to the mall." I go, "What the fuck you want to go to the mall? It's 7 o'clock. They didn't open until 10. He goes, "At 10 o'clock, we're going to the mall. We got to get some stickers." I'm like, "All right, fine." We go to the mall. We go to Hot Topic. He buys $2,000 worth of stickers. They're emptying out boxes out of the back. Cases of stickers. We go back to the house.
There you go.
No, I was going back to the house music.
Oh, no, you want some going back to the house music?
Yeah, going back to the house music. We get to the house. He proceeds to cover Cantrell's new Cadillac with every fucking sticker he just bought.
His fucking brand new fucking ride.
And you know the stickers that say "fuck you, fuck me, you fucking." It's like F this, F that. You know, every inch of the car is covered with these stickers. Then he takes the goat and shoves the goat in the passenger seat.
Yeah, and it's shitting.
It's shitting everywhere, eating the upholstery. There's a goat with a pink beard eating his new stickered up Cadillac. Cantrell comes out and he screams like Homer Simpson when something to him is horribly wrong. That "Wah!" Dime goes, "Don't ever bring a car over here cooler than mine again, motherfucker."